Hi everyone, I am Danielle Alvarez. I'm the head chef of Fred's restaurant in Sydney, Australia. I wanted to share a recipe from my cookbook, Always Add Lemon with You. Today we're going to be making the Simple Apple Galette, which is just a couple of ingredients, so let's get to it. You start with flour, your diced butter, and make sure that this butter is really, really cold. I keep it in the freezer actually a few minutes before I'm gonna use it because that just helps. So I mix in a little bit of sea salt and a little bit of sugar, and then just use your hands to kind of smoosh up the butter into the flour. You can also dump this out onto a bench and sort of mash it like that. So at this stage, we'll add in some ice water. I keep this in the freezer right up until I'm about to make the pastry. The amount of water you use is important. I give a little bit of a range in the book, but it's not a big range or anything. The reason is that sometimes it can be a little more humid where you are and you don't need as much, but it's kind of the amount of water you add is what decides if you have, again, a super crisp, flaky pastry. Just add in a little bit at a time and just keep pressing it together. So once it's kind of at this stage, and I know it looks still a bit shaggy, we just like to cut it into half and stack it one bit on top of the other and press it down again, and that's what's gonna give you all those beautiful flaky layers. So once the dough is made, all you wanna do is wrap it up in a bit of baking paper and keep it in your fridge for about 30 minutes until you're ready to roll it out. So one thing I should say now is that while your dough is chilling and your oven is preheating, you want to make sure that you have a pizza stone or a pizza steel in your oven preheating at the same time. This is the key to having a crispy bottom in your galette and not a soggy bottom. Okay, so we've got our chilled pastry dough here, and next step is rolling it out thinly. So if you just have a bit of flour and then just start rolling out your pastry in even directions. Okay, so at this stage, it's roughly about the size of one of these tin trays. And then once it's there, just on baking paper, you just wanna slide it on and try to get the edges as big as that. Use a pair of scissors and just trim off kind of more of the excess. It doesn't matter that it's not perfectly round. We're gonna just pop that into the fridge while we prep our apples so that it's ready for us when we're ready to bake. And then we're gonna prep our apples. So it's probably about 5 or 6 apples depending on the size. We're going to end up with them sliced like that, but I just wanna show you one little trick that I do. So peel the apples, and I think the nicest thing about this galette recipe is that you're using the entire apple. So we're gonna save all of these apple skins and the apple cores, and we're gonna cook that down with a little water and sugar, and that's gonna become the glaze. So I'll just pop those into a little pot. Cut our apples into quarters. And then from there, each one, you just wanna trim off that little base and cut at an angle to remove the core. So slice the quarters of the apples into thin slices. All right, so our chilled pastry base is nice and cold. So I just like to add a little sprinkle of flour on the base. This is so that any of the apple juices that might cook out will become nice and thick and don't just become a bit watery on the base. So you wanna leave yourself a good 2-centimeter edge because that's what we're gonna fold over. So I'll take one round of apples all the way around just so I know what I'm aiming for. So at this stage, this is the fun part. Now you could totally just fold that over kind of in pieces, but I like to make a really pretty like crimped edge. So if you just take with your index finger and your thumb, pinch them, fold them onto each other, you'll get a really beautiful pattern, but it's totally unnecessary. If you don't feel like doing this, you don't have to. And then when you get to the end here, you just fold that last one over. Lastly is I have a little bit of melted butter, some lemon juice, and some Calvados, and I just sprinkle that over a nice spoonful of sugar and egg wash. A little more sugar. All right, beautiful. So I think that looks really nice. We're just gonna get that into the oven. All right, so our finished galette has come out of the oven and it's looking really nice, golden, beautiful. So what I have here is, remember earlier when I was saying to save those apple skins and cook them down, this is the result. And if you brush that onto the apples, they just take on this really beautiful, shiny pink, but also flavor-wise, they give you that much more like concentrated apple flavor. Okay, that looks super nice. I'm really happy with how that turned out. You could serve that with vanilla ice cream or just as it is, really. I hope you enjoy that. That's my simple apple galette from Always Add Lemon.